What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of The Spectrum Show. My name is Spencer, and this is Jackson. And today, we've got another exciting, incredible episode for you guys.
Absolutely, Spencer. In this episode, we'll be reviewing one of the biggest movies that came out this past month, as well as giving you guys some important and exciting updates on the future of The Spectrum Show, specifically about Summer of Spectrum 2024.
Also, before we get started, I would like to take this moment to apologize for the lack of an episode in March. We're currently filming in April. There were some unforeseen last-second circumstances, and there really wasn't much we can do about them. However, we'll have 2 episodes this month, this one being the makeup one for March.
And just for reference, I will be our new co-host starting today, and Sean, who you will see in just a moment, will be our screenwriter going forward, and I cannot wait to show you what we bring to the Spectrum Show table.
Also, as for those wondering about Max, he unfortunately will no longer be joining us on the show, so we wish him the best on his future endeavors. So on that note, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll jump right into our first Spectrum of Opinions discussion. Don't go anywhere. The Spectrum Show will be right back. Welcome back to the Spectrum Show, and it is time for our first Spectrum of Opinions discussion. This time we'll be talking about the recently released blockbuster sci-fi film that released early last month, Dune Part 2. And this is Sean, just for reference, he was the guy we were talking about earlier. So Sean, what are your Spectrum of Opinions on Dune Part 2?
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I enjoyed it more than the first one, and part of that is a structural thing. Dune Part 1, these are both adapting a single book, a pretty long book at that.
Yeah.
And so I can understand why they adapted it into 2 movies, especially I recently tried to watch the original David Lynch Dune, and that is a movie that is in desperate need of more runtime, in part because they spend so much of it explaining it through like exposition. And I suppose that, Denis Villeneuve's Dune benefited from being split into 2 parts in this sense. And because it definitely gave it more room to breathe, though I liked the first part. I thought it was very well made. I thought it looked good. I thought the cast, Timothée Chalamet, Jason Momoa, Oscar Isaac, Zendaya, Dave Bautista.
Stellan Skarsgård. Javier Bardem was in it, I think.
All great, all incredibly cast.
And Rebecca Ferguson, of course.
And but the first one is exactly what it is. It's the first half of a story.
Absolutely.
And it kind of feels like it ends where the most interesting part begins, and you could call that a flaw, but thankfully for Part 2, that means its strength is that it really gets going here.
Absolutely, and I think Dune Part 2 it's easily going to be one of the greatest films ever made, I think, at this point in time. At least that's what people are saying.
Really?
I think it very well could be. Like, we look back and it's like, this is like, I can't believe I'm about to say this, but this could be Empire Strikes Back or Dark Knight level.
I mean, my comparison was Lord of the Rings, considering it's a prestige book genre fiction adaptation.
That's true. And I will say, hey, this was a masterpiece. There's no other way to describe it. This Dune Part 2 is an absolute masterpiece.
And, well...
for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, the only complaint I had about it, if I may, I felt like the pacing was a little bit of an issue because I felt like it was a little long, and I felt like it did drag at points.
Yeah, even though this is, the second part of, a 2-part story, it still kind of goes on and on and on. And I guess you could say that if you want to be really granular, the setting variety is it's a bunch of sand.
It's a bunch of it's called. They literally reference the name in this part, like Dune, like the sand dunes.
But it's a very good looking giant set of sand.
Yeah, absolutely. But why don't we get into the story while we're at it? And you probably remember this way better than I do because it's been so long since I've seen it.
Okay, so just for as brief a recap as I can manage here, the first part of Dune saw Timothée Chalamet as Paul Atreides move with his family to the planet Arrakis, which is host to deadly sandworms, scorching heat, and an incredibly valuable natural resource called spice, which...
Not to be confused with actual spices.
Like, this spice is essentially a drug that can give you psychic powers, future sight. Navigators use it so that they can, drive at faster than light speeds.
Wow.
I think that was more in the book than
I was about to say, I think that was definitely more in the book, I think.
But they're mainly sent there in the first movie as a trap for the Harkonnen family, who
I thought it was is it Harkonnen or?
Harkonnen.
Yeah.
It's an either-or kind of thing.
I suppose.
And Paul's father is killed, and he and his mother are forced into exile, where they find the indigenous people of Arrakis, the Fremen, and find that Paul is prophesized to become their destined savior.
Like a prophet, basically.
Yes. And also in the background is this undercurrent of the Bene Gesserit, a cult of, women who are trying to breed this ultimate Messiah figure who Paul is also destined to be.
Yeah, and I will say, like, on the subject of story, like, there were some really interesting, like, choices with the story, with where they did with this second film, because like we see a world that's like basically almost all black and white when we get to Austin, but when we meet Austin Butler's character, we meet an emperor and his daughter, played by Florence Pugh and Christopher Walken, respectively.
I love Christopher Walken, no matter what he's in.
It's true. And also, as an uncredited cameo, we see Anya Taylor-Joy as an yet to be born sister to Paul Atreides.
She was actually, this is an adaptational thing, she was born during the course of the book.
Oh, she was?
Yes, I have not read the book, but she is I can't speak to anything that happens later in Dune, but I do know for a fact she is a major character going forward.
Really?
Incredibly about as significant as Paul himself.
Wow. So you probably know way more about this than I do, clearly. So, and that's going to help a lot going forward. But anyway, yeah, I will say one of the areas I think this film really shined, the cinematography. It was fantastic.
I was hooked early on. Like, this movie opens on like a very sort of understated action sequence, and it's incredibly tense. It's well shot, like it's well edited, and it just kind of hooked me in right from the beginning, even as someone who just thought the first movie was, that was pretty cool. Like,
yeah, and
solid. I guess I'm not going to put a score to it, but
yeah, but this regardless, this one was better. And
yes,
I will say that the one thing about the story that really kind of was hit or miss for me was the amount of twists that there were. Like, the fact that the Atreides were half Harkonnen that kind of
felt like it came at a point where they couldn't really wring any drama out of it.
Yeah, and also, not to mention, you think the whole thing was about Timothée Chalamet's Paul Atreides with Zendaya's Shani, right?
Yeah.
And then out of nowhere, they're like, I will marry Florence Pugh's character.
I'm fine with that, because to me that's sort of like the point of Paul's character, in that he starts out as someone, just so we can finish up the plot. This one, because I summarized the first one, this one starts out with Paul finally integrating into the Fremen and kind of having an internal debate with him as to whether or not he should rise up and become their savior, or whether or not they should do so more independently, and whether or not to truly take revenge on the House Harkonnen.
And he kind of did, in a sense.
Yes, and this is drawing a lot from Frank Herbert's like personal beliefs. He was a very libertarian-minded person, and he had a sort of he was very averse to the idea of like singular heroes. Like, the entire point of Dune is essentially a morality tale against putting all of your faith in one man to lead you into a golden age.
Yeah, and it was very interesting. I mean, and it also felt like, as a separate note, it felt like this was the end of a story, but also the beginning of another, too.
I mean, there are 4 more books.
Oh, really? So we're not even done yet.
There are a lot of other books, and they go some pretty wild places.
I bet. So we're not just going to see this place, obviously.
Like, you thought riding the worms was insane? You're not ready for God Emperor of Dune.
I will actually ask this, though. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but like, when we get to the inevitable Dune Part 3, if they call it that.
It's probably going to be called Dune Messiah.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Which is what the second book was called.
But I have to emphasize, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Denis Villeneuve, the director of the film, didn't he say that the book was not as good as the other ones?
Dune Messiah?
Yeah.
I mean, that's Dune, I mean, the first Dune is obviously better regarded than its sequels. It's more famous, and that's the risk with writing a sequel to any famous novel. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
You're always going to have to live up to something.
Yeah, because this is gonna be very hard to live up to.
And again, I can't really speak to that because I have not read Dune Messiah, I have not read God Emperor of Dune, or any of the following books.
Yeah, and that's the order that they go in. It would be Dune, Dune Messiah, and God Emperor of Dune.
I'm pretty sure there's one in between.
Okay, but I will say like it's gonna be very hard to beat Dune Part 2, and I've noticed
maybe
that
it was Children of Dune. I don't know.
We'll figure it out when we get to it. But I will say this was a fantastic film, and also I forgot to mention this choreography of that last fight of Timothée Chalamet and Austin Butler, fantastic. That was a very very expert level choreography.
Who was your favorite character in the movie?
My favorite character. That's a tough one, honestly. I liked a lot of the new characters actually. Like Florence Pugh was she's excellent in everything she's in. Austin Butler was a total beast in that film.
He was actually. You know who played him in the David Lynch one? Sting.
Really?
Sting.
Whoa.
That
fun
character.
fact of the day, right there, I suppose. But I wait. I feel like I think we're bad. I think we need to. Yeah. So one last thing I will say. This, like, on a scale of 1 to 10. Where does this go?
This goes at a very, very solid 9 to 9.5 for me.
I would say this is a 9.5 to a 10 personally.
Well,
I mean, because this is kind of one of those films you experience like every 20 years or so. Like this is like one of those films we're gonna not get very often in our lifetime, you know?
Yeah, this feels like a film that is, if not, I don't know if it's gonna sweep the Oscar season, but it's gonna sweep the nominations at the very least.
Absolutely, and I mean the first one did for sure. And I will say, I think Dune Part 2 is definitely gonna win something for sure, at least one thing.
And if it doesn't, well,
that's gonna be a shocker. But yeah, so yeah, I think that's everything. Is there anything else, or are we good to move on to our next discussion?
I think we're good.
All right, folks. I think we're about done with that discussion, so don't go anywhere because we have one more spectrum of opinions left. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. We are the cast of The Spectrum Show, and today we are moving on to our next Spectrum of Opinions discussion. This time, we're taking a bit of a different direction with this one. We're going to tell you about some of the updated plans and some additional details for the 2024 Spectrum Show season. So I figure we might as well start with the fact that we have our Patreon up and running, and you should definitely, honestly, first off, please, we don't have any content on there yet at the moment, but we will have some soon. I think the plan at this moment in time is we're going to release all the prior episodes on the Patreon by the end of the month, I think. Or maybe beginning into next month, too. I mean, because we don't have a ton of content on there. No, actually, we don't have any content, but still, we need to fill the gap, is what we're trying to say. And we're only going to be doing it for like $1 a month, too. So, like, that you can, and there'll be some exclusive content on there, too. Like, we'll be reacting to a bunch of different pieces, like, movies, TV shows, maybe doing some of the live streams on there too, but we'll decide on that later. So I think that's good. I think that's pretty reasonable. What do you think?
I would say so.
Yeah, because because we're just starting out. Like I said, we're only in season 1, and $1 a month seems like a good entry point. And a lot of other creators I've seen have gotten away with it just fine.
Actually, there's a YouTuber I pretty consistently follow who has still at $1 a month despite putting out so many videos at this point.
How many subscribers does it have?
I think he's like I think it's like several thousand or something.
Oh well, yeah. So he's
a pretty notable channel. He talks about a lot of Marvel stuff.
Oh, so he's like so he gets the views basically is what it is, and
yeah, he gets good views, and his Patreon minimum access is still $1.
That's okay. That's great. That's excellent to know. There is also, we're going to be hopefully starting the Discord server either end of this month. That was the original plan. We might push it into early next month as well, because I'll be honest with you, I am not at all familiar with Discord. I mean,
I am. I could actually help with that.
That would be excellent if you could help us set up that. So Jackson's probably going to help us set up that server. So
I've made like 5 different servers before.
Fantastic! So we'll just have you make it for us then. All right. So we're probably gonna he'll probably help us with like the moderation and stuff too. And we'll find some mods as well.
Yeah.
If any of our subscribers, by the way, want to be for the YouTube channel, if they want to be mods, just feel free to leave a comment, and we'll be sure to reach out to you with that. The other thing is that and this is actually probably the biggest thing we're going to talk about, Summer of Spectrum 2024. We kind of hinted at it a bit last year, and we tried to do it for 2023 for the pilot season. We obviously didn't go anywhere with it because of complete scheduling and stuff like that. But we're looking about going all out this year. We really are, because our crew's expanding. We can do more stuff now. And honestly, like, guys, we have some really big plans, honestly. Like, I probably should tell you right now if you want to hear about them.
I'm actually going to tease one thing to start off.
Oh.
We are going to be in a second studio location soon.
That is very true, and I cannot wait for you guys to see it. It's pretty awesome. I mean, granted, it's a bit of a mess at the moment, but still, once it's ready, it's going to be fantastic. We'll be able to do so much more stuff, because I think me and Preston, actually, our director now, we talked about this on one of the previous episodes, but if we're going to reach our full potential, we need to be free. We need to be untethered, basically, to just the studio.
We're in that other studio in June and August, right?
Oh, yeah, I thought you were talking about something else for some reason. But yeah, we actually have a third studio, actually, because we're going to, actually, I'm just going to announce it right now. We have a second studio we're going to be filming at for Summer of Spectrum. It's a bit farther away from our current location, but it's going to be really exciting. We're hopefully going to be reviewing some really good projects there. And maybe I think we're going to be trying some other more experimental stuff as well. I'll explain to you what that is in a moment. But we have some, like I said, really cool ideas. We're going to be starting like I said, the Patreon, we're going to have a reaction show where we actually react to the content and review it right afterwards. And we're also, I think this is actually pretty important too, we're going to be starting a separate podcast, I think, with some of the crew people taking center stage, and me and Jackson will probably be like alternating between like hosting, and we'll basically be recapping like what we thought of the episode and some of the stuff that happened behind the scenes and stuff like that.
I like that.
I think it'll be good, especially with like other channels doing it so well. I think it'd be really fun to do, honestly. And honestly, like as for live streams, so this is another thing for Summer of Spectrum, we're gonna be doing a lot of the E3 time conferences, for lack of a better term, and we're really excited for those. I mean,
The Nintendo Direct.
Xbox already announced theirs, I think.
State of Play. Xbox is Xbox Connect, right? I can't remember.
Xbox is the game showcase. Xbox is the game showcase.
Xbox Game Showcase.
Yeah, and
I never remember the name for that one.
and
It's not like State of Play or Nintendo Direct.
But I will say, the Xbox Game Showcase that they announced for this, they announced this back in like earlier this spring, I think, or maybe in February, I think. And they were like, we're going to have a lot of good time at the June showcase. I think we talked about this in one of the earlier episodes too, actually. But yeah, that'll be a very fun watch because they've been pretty good lately. And I will, for Sony's PlayStation showcase, we'll probably react to that. And hopefully Nintendo announces something soon, because we've had, even though my prediction so far has been pretty accurate so far, I will say, like it was Partner Showcase early on, then Indie World, so they're probably saving the big one for like June, I would think.
Yeah, I think we're getting a Direct around E3 time.
Like, if they better deliver on it, and they better do it generally, because if they don't deliver or well enough or at all, they're going to be in some deep trouble, I think. Considering that Xbox and PlayStation already have their mid-cycles, I think, planned at the moment, I think.
And then they're just going to stop releasing games for like a year, from what I've heard.
Well, they'll have some other titles that take advantage of it. But regardless, Nintendo needs to pull something out. They need to crap out something real fast.
The second the Switch 2 comes out, it's probably going to sell like half the Switch's unit history.
It could probably do more than that, honestly.
Oh, it's going to be, I feel like there's a good chance Switch 2 beats the PS2.
100%. And honestly, I would not be surprised if when Switch 2 comes out, I think it's going to be the biggest thing in the world at the moment. It's going to be like, and I wouldn't, even if we have to wait till holiday, it'll still be the most hyped thing at the moment.
Yeah.
And I think they do also want to get more units out, so they don't want to avoid like any.
A holiday season launch would make sense.
And even though like holiday 2025 is way off, but I wouldn't mind waiting for it as long as they just announce the darn thing. Like just announce it, and I'll take whatever date you throw at us.
Yeah.
For the most part, but still, Is there anything else, or I think we're good to finish up?
I think we're good to finish.
All right, so I think we're about done here. So just don't go anywhere. We don't have one more surprise at the moment, but I will say this has been fantastic. Thank you so much. We'll do our outro in a moment, but stay tuned. We'll be right back. Well, gentlemen, I think we had a fantastic episode. Wouldn't you guys say?
I feel like we did.
Yeah.
All right, so, and of course, as they were just alluding to, a massive shout out to Jackson and Sean for joining us on this episode, which actually is earlier than they were supposed to, so be sure to show these two some love in the comments. So that was certainly a spectacular episode in my opinion. But before we sign off, we would like to share with you that the next episode will actually be our 1-year anniversary episode, and hopefully if all goes according to plan, it won't be like the others, mostly. So that being said, we hope you all enjoyed this episode as much as we enjoyed making it. Be sure to leave a like, a friendly comment, and share the video with your family or friends. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss anything we put out. Be sure to follow us on Threads, Instagram, Twitch, Patreon, and be sure to join our Discord when it comes out really soon. So thank you all so much for watching, and until next time,
Good night, everybody!